My focus these days is on exposing my ego by noticing how and when my ego shows up in me and what I'll do to try to break out from that and return to the present moment. And yesterday, I heard someone asking someone, do you feel good while you think about your desires? And I was like, of course, they're my desires, right? But then I reflected on that throughout the evening, and I realized something. I don't really feel that good while thinking about my desires. Or I do in the beginning, when the desire is just kind of a dream, a distant dream, when it's becoming a desire, something that I'm wishing for, but that I'm not yet seeing as realistic or something to come in the near future, right? So let's just do one of my desires as an example, because that's also how I realized that that's a huge way my ego shows up in me. My main desire is to make it my main job to spend most of my time helping people thinking on purpose and feeling so much better most of the time, because what we think or how we think directly decides how we feel. And that has been a desire of mine for many years. But it wasn't until I really started thinking about it, maybe 1.5 years ago, that it became like a really strong desire. And I realized as I heard this question yesterday that when this desire of mine was in the phase of like, oh, that would be nice, maybe someday in the future I will do that, and I would love doing that because I kind of feel like it's my purpose, like I'm born to do it, but right now this is my line of work, maybe I'll just do that on the side, that is for a different day, you know. Whilst in those days, in the early stages of my desire, I felt great about it. You know, I was daydreaming about it, thinking how good it would feel to help people use their mind wisely, use their thoughts purposely, to see how easy it really is to feel good once we realize we have a choice. And I loved visualizing this, and thinking about it made me feel so good. So then, of course, I felt good while thinking about my desire. But then something happened. About a year ago, I decided to take that desire from dream to reality. I decided to actually do something about it, to take some steps towards my desire. And I did it in a big way. I quit my job because I just knew that, oh, I've been thinking about this for many years. When am I going to do it? I need to give myself the push and just start doing something with it, right? And that is also about the time where my thoughts and feelings towards my desire started feeling a bit worse. And in retrospect, I think it's because when my desire was just in the distant dream phase, my ego didn't perceive it as a threat. Because it was like, oh, you're just dreaming about things in the future or maybe never, so I don't have to interact with your thoughts about this because, honey, you're just dreaming. It's not like you're going to do anything about it, right? So keep dreaming. I think that was my ego's response to it, because it didn't see it as a threat to my routines, to my everyday life, because my ego loves routines and knowing what's about to come, right? Because that's how it thrives. It needs to know that everything is going to be like it's always been, because then it works the best. So it didn't see it as a threat back then. But when I actually decided to do something with it, to make my desire closer to reality, and actually did a very specific step towards it, left my job and started doing different things to put myself in the flow of everything I wanted to do. For example, making this channel, right? And that is when my ego obviously must have realized that, oh, this is maybe not just a distant dream. You're actually doing something with it. And that could mean a lot of changes. That could mean my life would look very differently than it has been doing for the last 10 years. So I need to react. I need to respond to this now, because now this just became a threat to everyday life routines. And what happened then is I went from the daydreaming phase where everything just felt good about it because I just pictured my life and my purpose the way it's supposed to be. Me helping people, me feeling good myself and helping others finding the same, and just feeling like I was contributing to something very important in this world. Of course that made me feel good before. But now that my ego came into the picture, I went from those thoughts to more worry, to more how and what and when. And what if I'm not good enough? What if I did a mistake by leaving my job? What if? And how am I gonna do it? You know, all of these thoughts. And of course, I've realized that I'm having these struggles. I've been sharing them a lot as well, but it was just something about the question, does it feel good to think about your desire, that really opened my eyes. Like, my desire is these days the biggest threat to my ego. And my ego comes in the way every time I think about my desire. Every time I try to do something towards my desire, my ego is there giving me these worries and questions that I really can't find the answer to, because I'm not supposed to have the answer right now. And part of me knows that. But when I just give airtime to my ego about it, it holds me back from making my desire a reality. So I think that was a very helpful question, and I just wanted to share that with you guys, because as I also said in my last video, I think by far the easiest, most effective way to spot your ego, because our ego is our old negative programming, thoughts and beliefs we have been kept thinking for years, right? So it's not really that easy to notice it because it just goes under the radar. But the way to notice it, I think, is by noticing how you feel when you think about a topic, when you think about your desire, how you feel throughout your day. Because your ego is the part of you that makes you feel bad. And at the end of my 4-week growth challenge that I did a little while ago, I summarized it by saying that I will give names to these voices in my head so I can easier see which one is taking up airtime in my mind. So my old me, my ego me, I called my old ego me for old me Olga, and then inner being me, which is what I like to call the true me. The person holding these desires is inner me. or new me. So new me Nelly and old me Olga. So when I have a thought that makes me feel bad, I can say, oh, that was old me Olga speaking, because these are my negative beliefs. But do I really believe them anymore? New me Nelly, what do you think about this, right? So how I will step out of my ego when it comes in the way of my desire is by noticing how I feel while thinking about my desire, because my desire is supposed to make me feel good. That's why we call it a desire. So the moment I feel bad about it, it's my ego messing with my thoughts, being scared, feeling threatened because everything is about to change, right? But then by noticing that, by exposing the ego, I think that is pretty much enough, right? Because when I notice that these are my ego old beliefs and programming that I no longer really believe in, that is when new me Nelly can come into the picture and start thinking on purpose, right? Because ego is autopilot mind. That is not thinking on purpose. That is thinking on habit. But thinking on purpose around my desire, I know that it's supposed to make me feel good. I know that I'm doing what feels right to me. I know that I had these amazing feelings about it before, and they were the right feelings. So I can bring them back. And the moment I just realize that my ego is taking up space, that's when I expose it. That's when I return to the present moment. And I can ask myself, new me Nelly, how do you feel about my desire? And new me Nelly loves my desire. She reminds me how good I feel by practicing what I preach, by sharing important knowledge that I think everyone deserves to know. And there is nothing negative about helping people feel better. So, ego, you have nothing to do in this picture right now, honestly. So yeah, just notice how you feel. And then ask yourself, is it old you or new you speaking? And the moment we just realize that it's old me ego speaking, most of the job is done. Because then we can laugh at it and see that this is not reality. This is not the way things actually are, or the way things actually makes me feel. This is my ego being threatened. And I think that's enough, but we have to do it several times, right? Because the ego will always find a new way to sneak in there and whispering thoughts in our minds. But I see you, and you have no place in my desire. So just wanted to share that with you. Thank you.